Greetings all. This June I checked out our local boat auction, and there wasn't a big turnout, nor were there a whole heck of a lot of bigger boats. There was a lot of smaller boats, and that was pretty cool. And the turnout was kind of light, but I'll also show you some other things that are out there for looking at options of buying cheap boats out there. So climb aboard and let's go. One of the funner things about going to the boat auction is you'll never know who you'll see. And here we see Andy from Sailing Soleil making a video about boat auctions. So it's good to see him out and about and around. Well, we have this little blue sailboat here, and I have an interesting story about that. Here, I'll spin a yarn here. A long time ago, maybe about 7 or 8 years ago, circa 2018 or so, I used to see this boat in Alamitos Bay, and it was owned by an owner, and from what I heard is he passed away. Family didn't want the boat, so they donated it to the city of Long Beach for their auction. Subsequently, it was bought, but the person who bought it tried flipping it. Immediately it was up on Craigslist, and it didn't sell. I think he bought it for $800, tried flipping it for $3,200. Didn't happen. So the sailing center came and picked up the boat, and it was over at the sailing center for a number of years until COVID hit, and they sailed it around, and it was a fun little boat and such. I got to ride in it once just to have it, and then COVID didn't get used, kind of sat there, and they gave it back to the city of Long Beach. So it's been at a couple of auctions since then, but I think this is going to be its last auction. So kind of the end of life of a fine little boat. Well, here's a Cal 39, probably the boat with the best pedigree at the whole auction. Potentially it was a good boat, but this one was pretty shot. The engine looked seized or not working. And also one of the problems with the auction with these Cal boats, they have a steel stringer near the forward bulkhead. And if you can't check that, then you don't know if you're going to really get into a can of worms or not. It also had a pretty hefty tax lien, so I don't know. This one didn't get sold. Well, sauntering down the gangway to the next boat, past this old Sears flat bottom boat, then on to a Columbia 36, and I was hoping this had some potential. Lo and behold, going down inside, first thing I was greeted was by an old Atomic 4 engine. So they pulled the engine out. Now, actually inside was another engine. It looks like they were trying to repower it with the diesel, but they didn't get very far, and that thing was all apart. So hopes busted on this one. We'd have to get the engines going on this thing. So, but you had 2 engines. Probably both of them neither worked. But away we go on this one. Didn't sell either. The Cal 39.
The engine was in sideways.
It looks like they were pulling it out
and couldn't get it out.
Couldn't get it out, exactly. And this is a little Atomic 4, which isn't too bad.
No, I had one of those. Very dependable.
Yeah, very dependable.
However, we're not when it's right there.
Yeah, like you're. So you look at this and you try to.
So moving across the little harbor here, we move into some other boats for sale. We have a Ericson, a Catalina, and a Jensen. And so far the bidding's been pretty light with a lot of no sales. So let's see what we get going on here. Here we have a Catalina 30, and this was actually in pretty good shape. Going inside, it was fairly well maintained. Again, probably one of those donated boats right here. Fairly clean, and it did sell. $1,375 plus, I think $345 for a tax lien on it. So for around $1,600-1,700, you could at least purchase a boat. And so I hope the owner had a lot of good luck with this. Again, it looked in pretty good shape here, so I'm sure that they were able to get it going and stuff. Again, one of the things to look for are soft decks and the condition of the sails.
Kicker motor on them old Catalinas, you know.
Well, one thing I checked was the keel bolts. These old Catalinas have keel bolts, and opening up, looking at the bolts, they're a little rusted, but there's no water in the bilge. Also had a big kicker motor on it, so that was probably easy to get started and stuff. So overall, a boat in pretty good condition, and of course, that's one reason why it's sold. Here we have a Cal Jensen 28. I thought this was going to sell, but I didn't go inside of it. Pretty rough shape on the outside, though. Definitely needed a new set of sails and a lot of bright work and a little bit of worn fiberglass. Thus, it didn't sell.
Come on, a little spit and polish, clean this thing up, a little spray paint.
That's how poor people get nice things.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, here we're going to have a Ericson 27, probably the best boat at the auction, in my opinion. Engine was super clean. It was well maintained. Didn't look like it had been abandoned for too long and stuff. So I imagine there wasn't a tax lien. It's probably a donated boat. I hope the owners had a good time with this thing. I didn't try turning the engine over, but it was so clean, I don't think they would have had much of a problem. So again, it went for $13.75, I think. So good price on this boat, and definitely the deal to have. I could imagine this could have gone for a little bit higher, but all a very good boat. So that kind of concluded the auction. There was one power boat, a Wellcraft, but I didn't present that, so not a good selection of power boats on this one. So it is kind of a sailboat one. And with that theme, the scuttlebutt was that somebody tried flipping a boat from the boat auction. Well, I found out that wasn't true. I checked out the Boat Trader, and eventually I led to Craigslist, and I started looking at cheap boats around the area. And lo and behold, there's a bunch of options out there. So, auctions aren't the only place to find cheap boats. Again, looking around marinas for abandoned boats, getting their VIN number, so to speak, and trying to trace down the owner. Craigslist is another one. You can get a boat for just about any price. And again, if you see something being advertised, that's the asking price. Doesn't always necessarily mean the buying price. And one of the advantages to looking at a boat like on Craigslist and stuff is you could spend your time looking over this boat. You could go there, you could even bring a surveyor down, and you could look at it pretty well. And these auctions, you have basically about an hour to look at a boat, and you make or break it. And they are expensive if you buy a boat. They are expensive if you have to dispose of it. So the marina here allows you 10 days or so. You have to remove the boat. Can't be in the marina for 6 months, so you got to find a place for it. Minimum bid is $500. So these Craigslist can be a lot better deal. Well, we have a number of good boats here being advertised on Craigslist and some other posts. We have a Jensen 29, which, if you recall, didn't sell at the auction, and here's one for $5,000. So you could have maybe potentially flipped a boat if it's in similar shape. We also have a Catalina 30. So again, this one's $5, so a little bit cheaper than the auction. Again, probably not as a nice shape as the one that we saw at auction. We have a Pearson 365 for free. It's in Texas on a lake. Might take a little bit to transport it out, maybe $5,000 or $6,000, but another boat with a lot of really good potential. Subsequently, we also have a Kettenberg 32. Again, don't know the shape of this boat, but a good pedigree on that, so that also has a lot of potential. Then we have a Columbia 32. Again, the auction, it didn't sell. Might be in fairly good shape. It's hard to tell, but the picture of the engine looks really good. So that one definitely has a lot of potential for it. It is the most expensive, but again, that's their asking price. Might be able to bring it down a little bit from there. We get a little bit higher in price of boats. Again, hopefully they're in better shape. $15,000 for Cal 34, which also has a really good pedigree. Again, you might be able to get it for under 10,000, but I've seen Cal 34s. They're fairly common around here, so they could go for a lot less expensive. And we kind of wind up with Ericson 28 for 17,000. That's about the average going asking price for one. And again, it depends on what kind of shape it's in and what kind of refit has been done. So yeah, there's a lot of potential for cheap boats out there. And you can sail away on your dreams. A lot of these are great day cruisers, and you get out there. Again, another option is to get together with a bunch of friends and buy a boat. You take it for a season and then flip it out. So hopefully you'll have some happy boating out there. A lot of great deals out there this year and right now. Again, in the fall is another good time. People haven't sold their boats. They're really looking to swing some deals. So I wish you guys all good luck, happy boating out there, and have a great day. Thanks for watching.